Perhaps half an hour passed before I looked up again. What I saw confused and amazed me. The movement of the pendulum had increased by almost 3 feet. It was moving much faster now. It had descended somewhat, and I could see that the edge of the pendulum was a semicircle of steel about a foot long. Even from this distance, I could see that it was sharp as a razor, hanging from an iron pole attached to a panel above me. It looked very, very heavy. More frightening still, I could hear it hiss as it swung through the air. I no longer had any doubt about the death my torturers planned for me. The agents of the Inquisition knew I had escaped the horrors of the pit. Now a different death waited for me as the pendulum swung closer and closer. I need not describe the agony of those long, terrible hours after I realized what the pendulum could do. I counted the swings of the pendulum, right to left to right, as it came closer, little by little. It felt as though days had passed. I began to feel the air moving. The pendulum swung closer to me. The smell of steel reached me. I prayed over and over that death would come quickly to stop my agony. I became frantic. I tried to force my body up toward the knife edge. I would do anything to end this misery. Then suddenly I became quiet and calm. I smiled up at the glittering death like a child who was looking at a shiny bauble. I think it was then that reason left me completely. I needed food. I craved any nourishment, and I ate a small portion of the meat left over by the rats. I suffered even greater agonies from the terrible thirst which followed. But as I ate the meat, a half-formed idea entered my mind, an idea which gave me hope. What right had I to hope? The idea was almost concrete when it disappeared. I knew the swing of the pendulum came at right angles to my body, and that the crescent was designed to cut across my heart. First, it would have to cut through my robe. I began to think I could stop the pendulum there. I imagined the sound the pendulum would make as it cut the cloth. I thought and thought until I almost believed it was going to happen. I laughed and cried in turns as I moved from blind hope to despair. The pendulum was very close to me, and I struggled furiously to free my left arm. If I could break the strap holding my arm, I could stop the pendulum. But deep inside myself, I knew it would be easier to stop an avalanche than this swinging, deathly steel. I gasped and struggled at each swing. My eyes followed the blade as it went up. Then I closed them as it descended. Death would be a relief, but hope made me shrink away from the blade, causing all of my nerves to vibrate. Hope triumphs during torture and whispers to those condemned to death even in the dungeons of the Inquisition. I knew that 10 or 12 swings would bring the steel into contact with my robe. With this observation, I suddenly felt the total calm of complete despair. For the first time in many hours, or perhaps days, I thought. I had been obsessed with the idea that the blade must cut my robe first, but now I realized that the strap tying me down was simply that, one long strap. The first swing of the blade across any part of the strap would free me. I would be able to unwind it with my left hand and escape the pendulum's blade. But I knew the steel would be too close, and the smallest struggle would mean death. Sad to find my last faint hope frustrated, I raised my head and looked down at my body. I should have known. The strap was wound around me in all directions, except in the path of the blade. As soon as I dropped my head back onto its wooden pillow, my mind flashed to my incomplete idea, the idea that had given me hope. The idea was now concrete, though it was weak and only half sane. With the nervous energy of despair, I attempted its execution.